Alright guys, it's Chatterbox Reviews, coming at you guys with Ozark, Season 1, Episode 7, Review. Alright, so, I hate to say it, but this was probably one of my least favorite episodes of the season so far, probably even my least favorite. I don't know what it is about the show, but it started off really well. I was really invested in it, and just the last two episodes, I've kind of, I don't know, I've kind of turned me off a little bit from the show, and I'm not sure exactly why. I think maybe they kind of, maybe they're building up to something big. I've heard, like I said, I think I said this in the last one, but I heard that the finale is amazing, right? Like something, a big thing goes down. I've heard it's really good. So, I don't know. I find that maybe they just stress too much on building up to it. I think that the last episode and this one were both bridge episodes. I mean, they're just setting up, no storylines that were introduced in this one were finished. So, kind of leading us from one to the other, and I think there's only really the one storyline that was created, or maybe two. So I mean, I don't know, it just wasn't my favorite. I thought that some of the stuff was really unrealistic. I thought like some of it was just irrelevant to me. I didn't really understand why we're watching this happen. So anyways, that's what I'm here to talk about. I'm just going to do a quick recap of the episode, and then I'll get to my thoughts. So I'm not sure what's up with this. So I don't know, maybe other people have a different opinion. Maybe they really like these episodes. But for me, in watching a lot of other TV shows I have a lot on the go right now, as you guys know, with my reviews, and then I also watch about three shows now, that I don't review in addition. So compared to those ones right now, these episodes are kind of paling in comparison. So yeah, and it's not really what I expected. I mean, I had really high expectations for Ozark ever since the premiere. I've really been high on it, and honestly, up to now, I thought that if it keeps going like the way it is, it may even rival Breaking Bad. But if they keep having episodes like this, I don't know. So we'll have to see. So anyways, getting into the recap now. So we start out with Marty. This was probably the best. The opening scene was probably the best part of this episode by far. For me, it was amazing. Just a really intense scene. So that it was probably the best part of this whole episode. And we saw it in the first 3 minutes, and then it was over. So yeah, now you know how I feel a little bit. But anyways, he goes to Mason's house, and this is after he sees the cross on the church that we just saw last episode. Again, I just like to touch. They put us right back into the same moment again in this episode, and I do really enjoy when shows do that. So then he pulls up, but he sees the Snells pull up just when he is. So they get out of their pickup truck, and he gets out of his car, and it's sort of a race to Mason's door. And this has just built a great, intense scene, like I said. I mean, both Jacob and Marty, and Jacob's wife, have secrets that they don't want Mason to find out. And, I mean, in this situation, either of them can literally expose the other completely, right? I mean, Marty knows everything about Jacob, and Jacob knows everything about Marty, as well as we learn later on, of course. But maybe at this time we didn't. But, they both know stuff about each other that would, kind of kill the reputation with Mason. And they both need Mason right now. So really, really high stakes circumstance. And I think Jason Bateman and, the way he portrays his character is perfect in the scene. He's just so, cool. Cool as a cucumber or whatever. And he's just so mellow, through the whole thing. He's just talking it through and trying to talk to Jacob. So I just love this scene. I thought it was the best part of this episode by far. Basically Marty talks Snells out of it, but he offers them basically all he has. So he offers them, I think it was like 700 I don't know, I'm not gonna guess. It was 700,000. It was somewhere in there. And he basically gives them this money, I guess, to leave Mason's family alone, and Marty's family alone. But I didn't really fully comprehend what the money was for. I get that, he's trying to protect Mason, so maybe that was the money for, protecting Mason then, since the cross went up. That was sort of like the penalty that Marty had to pay. And also, this money, he says, is dirty. It hasn't been cleaned yet. So I'm not sure how the Snells are gonna use it. Maybe it comes back to Marty, maybe in the end, if they start spending this money. So I'm not sure how that's gonna go. But he ends up taking them to that little storage place and giving him everything he has. He empties out that big pipe. For a second there, I thought he was maybe hiding a little bit at the back or something, but it turns out he wasn't, and he gave them everything he had. So, yeah, so that's a big deal. Obviously, hurts his family a lot, and it's great for the Snells, though, right? They just made away with $700,000. Anyways, yeah, so that was a great scene. I love that one. So then Wendy dropped Sharla and Jonah off at school. So it's just starting again. Kind of funny because the day I watched this was school back here now. So kind of just interesting with the days. But anyways, so yeah, it's just starting again, and this is sort of to represent that the summer has now passed. It is basically over, which I'm not a big fan of because honestly, it was the July 2-4, the 24th of July weekend. I think it was 2 episodes ago in episode 5 or 4. And in 3 episodes, they basically skipped a month and a bit, like maybe 5 weeks, or 6 weeks. So I'm not a big fan of that they skipped a lot of the summer. I felt like they could have showed a lot more. Because they've already had, I think we've already went through like 3 or 4 months now of story in about 7 episodes. So just seems like a little fast for me, but that's just I guess that's just how they're doing it. But otherwise, I didn't really see any relevance for that. To be honest with you, seeing Sharla and Jonah at school, it's not that big for me. Like, those 2 kids for me aren't really characters that I find myself caring about as much as Marty, Wendy, even the Snells. I care, and Mason even I care more about, and Roy, and Langmore. So to me, the whole storyline with the kids, I'm not a big fan of. I'm not attached to that story as much as I am any other story in the show. So yeah, that's kind of what I got out of it. So then Roy Petty, the FBI agent, gets Russ Langmore, to say he won't try to kill Marty Bird again. So the key word in there is again. And I'm not even sure Russ was really responsible. He was in on Ruth's plan, but I don't think he never actually rigged it. I think that was all Ruth. So, and he's never tried to kill Marty in the past. So, I don't really know what the again was. I think that Roy kind of made it sound like, he tried before. And I guess he did, right? He didn't stop Ruth from doing it, so I guess. But anyways, later on we find out Roy catches it on tape, actually. He was recording that, and Roy plays this for his partner that he calls on the phone, Trevor Evans, that we saw, I think back in episode 2 was the last time we saw him, so it's been a while. And he tells them, what's going on with Russ, and, that he got this tape recording, and we kind of see that Roy actually may have real feelings for Russ. He lies to his partner about him, says there's nothing going on, nothing you need to know, or whatever about Russ. So we kind of see that he may actually have real feelings for Russ Langmore, which is kind of interesting. For an FBI agent, to get too involved, obviously that's not a good thing, especially in his circumstance with the stakes of him being an undercover cop. And I'm sure Russ would not be happy about that, but, if he found out, but yeah, so he basically lies to him, so we kind of see that he's trying to protect Russ a little bit when he could have just, said whatever. So, yeah. So then a man asks Wendy to take him to see a property. He comes into the real estate business, and, this is just kind of predictable. It's too good to be true that a man would just, walk in, say, Wendy or whatever, go show me a house. My family's just moving in here. No family moves there, right? To get a new start or whatever, like the guy was saying. So it's a little predictable. You knew that something was up here. So it turns out he's not who he says he is, obviously. And he knows their kids' names. He knows where they go to school. And, Wendy's obviously frightened. And he says he works for Dell. Tells her that that Dell wants the $8 million cleaned. And that they're watching her and Marty now. because they're not the deposits have slowed down, and Dell doesn't think he's going to get his money here. So it's kind of an interesting spin on things, because looking at Dell's point of view, right? Marty's been down there for I think like the whole summer basically, and he hasn't been doing much, right? And he said even that they've been spying on him at the Blue Cat Lodge, that he hasn't been there, so they know exactly what he's up to, and it's just a matter of Wendy and Marty getting the $8 million to Dell in time. So yeah. And also, he says, it's the end of summer or whatever. And Wendy says, well, it's September 21st, or, technical, as she is. So basically, they have, I would guess, I think it's about 3 weeks, because school usually, starts first week of September. So, maybe, or, that's maybe in Canada. I'm not sure when it starts in the States, maybe sometime late August or whatever. So they probably have about 3 or 4 weeks to launder all this money and get it to them. So, not long. So then Marty tells Mason and his wife at the church building there that the Snells are dealing drugs at their service on the water. So, he kind of basically completely exposes Jacob, tells him, the truth about everything. And obviously Mason, can't accept it. He's not happy about it. But for Marty, it's the only thing he could do that would get through to him. That would make sure that Mason went back on the water. And obviously, if Marty doesn't convince him to get back on the water, then Marty might be dead. So, he had to have a reason for him to get back on the water, and he just completely exposes Jacob here. So yeah, kind of interesting there, but it definitely got through to Mason and his wife. So then Jonah gets in a fight with his teacher over, saying no to drugs and alcohol for him or something like that they were signing. And, Wendy and Marty go to the principal's office. And, they're talking about Jonah. And then the principal says, that Charlotte didn't show up for class that day, which is a bit surprising. Wendy and Marty had no idea. So Wendy and Marty go to Wyatt Langmore, to see where she went. Wyatt says, and that's just kind of a funny scene with Ruth saying, tell these guys where their daughter is or something. So that was kind of funny. Wyatt says he took her to the station and she's going to Chicago. So yeah. So Ruth then offers to Wendy that, they can go and get her, that she was going to go to the prison and meet her dad in St. Louis anyways. So, they can go together. And then Marty is supposed to go to this guy, Sam, and about the, about becoming a new client or whatever. And he forgets Jonah. Oh, that was the funniest part of the whole episode there. And then Jonah, says, like, you were going to forget me or something. And he's like, nothing's more important than you, or whatever. So that was some comedy in this one. There wasn't a lot, but that was probably the most funny moment. So then Mason confronts the Snells. Now, in my opinion, I think this is really unrealistic. It's the Snells being the type of family they are, these huge drug dealers in the Ozarks. Now, I'm not sure how far, their reach is really. But for Mason to confront them, yes, they need him on the water for his service. They need him alive. But, I don't know. I thought it was really unrealistic that, first of all, Mason would have, the balls or the guts to go to the Snells in the first place and tell them this. Second, that Jacob would even listen to him. Jacob could have easily just, pulled a held a gun to his head and ran and threatened him. So I thought this scene was really unrealistic. But, it did happen. So Mason is told the truth about Marty from Jacob, that he was going to launder money through the church construction. So obviously we know that Jacob had Marty all figured out. He knew everything. And Mason's kind of in a tough spot now. He's kind of double screwed. He's getting screwed by Jacob and he's getting screwed by Marty. And Marty was supposed to be, his friend, his advocate. And now he can't really trust anyone. So, he's in a really tough situation now. And, yeah, I feel kind of bad for him because he's innocent in all this. And he's kind of becoming a big victim here. So then at the end he agrees to keep the service on the water once he finds out that Marty was lying to him as well. So obviously he can't have the church because he doesn't want to help out Marty in laundering money. So yeah, But yeah, tough spot for Mason to be in. So then Wendy finds Charlotte at the bus station finally, and she says, she wanted her old life back, and she, just wanted things to go back to the way they were. But I thought, another thing is that Zach went back to Chicago last episode, or maybe 2 episodes ago. So I was thinking personally that maybe she went for him, that she wanted to see him again. So I was thinking that secretly that may have been the reason as well, or that may have been, contributed to it. So that's possible as well. Yeah, but that's what she told her mom, that she wanted the life back. So then after that, they kind of get all settled in. They take Ruth then to the prison to see her dad. Yeah, Ruth tells him what happened. And he says, he kind of jokes with her a little bit, and then he gets really creepy. And then you figure out, why he's in jail. Not a good dude. And yeah, so he tells her not to come back to see him until Marty is dead. So, a big thing for him to say, and then he just walks away. So, and Ruth is so attached to her father in this that it's kind of heartbreaking for her, right? This is kind of a big deal for him to say something like that, that he doesn't want her to come back. So, she's going to be kind of forced to do what he says. And the irony here is that, she's going back to the car where Marty's wife and daughter are in, and she's now supposed to kill him. So just really ironic there. And I don't know. It was just interesting the way it played out, right? That she got a ride from them there. And yeah, so that was a very interesting scene, and definitely hard for Ruth to take in. So then after that scene where, Ruth goes to the prison, we see Marty get Eugenia and Sam. I think Eugenia, I think that's how they say it. And Sam, Sam is the real estate guy that Wendy is working for now, and Eugenia is his mom. So he basically gets them to give gets them to give their money to invest it. So he kind of sells it as, he's a financial advisor, and he is, right? And that he's going to grow this money or whatever. But the truth is, he needs the money to replace the $700,000 that he gave to the Snells. And also this will help him, in getting $8 million for Dell in time. And I think the thing that sold it was, he said that picture was beautiful on the wall. So I'm not sure if Wendy maybe even told him that. We didn't see that scene, so I'm wondering if that's what happened, or Marty was just, really smart on his feet and he figured that out. Either or, an interesting thing that he kind of noticed that and picked up on it, and kind of sold her there. And so after, they agree to give the money or whatever to him, transfer it, we see him on his laptop there, getting the money into his account, and then, as a transfer, and then transferring all that money into his account. And I was kind of confused here. I feel like they were trying to show us something more, but the only thing I really noticed is him transferring money into his account. So I'm not sure, maybe if I missed something here. I noticed that the balance was different. I think it was $932,000 or something like that, afterwards, after he transferred it in. So I'm not sure if that was supposed to mean something. It was kind of a confusing scene because it really only showed like the laptop, then it showed his face, then it showed the laptop, like kind of switched back and forth, and I didn't really get to see enough of it in time, and I didn't really rewind. So yeah, so that was kind of confusing, but interesting nonetheless to see, what he does with the money. So then after that, Sam has a fight with his mom Eugenia. And he's swearing at her and saying all this stuff, and it's pretty harsh for her being his mom. And again, this is another one of those unrealistic scenes about this episode. I mean, would a son really say all that stuff to his mom? Well, yes. I mean, his mom has been I would say abusing him, right? I mean, the way she treats him, not really as her son, even, and definitely not, as a man, really, more like a baby. So, but I think it was still harsh, and I think it was definitely unrealistic for a guy, the character like Sam, to kind of open up all of a sudden and get in this big fight. So, it is what it is. So, then he tells her the truth about Wendy and Marty in this fight, about them being together. And this is the only thing that Wendy said, to Sam not to tell her. So he kind of breaks that trust there. And I'm not surprised that that came out. I'm not surprised that he let that, off and told his mom. But obviously, Wendy, if she finds out, you know, she's not going to be pretty happy. Maybe she won't find out probably, but I'll get to that in just a second. But she gets upset, basically, the mom, and she kind of storms out, goes out front, and she puts up a sign or something, and she's kind of mocking Sam a little bit, being really rude to him, and he's kind of stopped arguing at this point, and she's kind of just, up in the ante here. She starts wandering onto the road, and she's she's doing like facial expressions and stuff, still mocking him. And then all of a sudden we hear this truck coming, and he says, "Mom, get off the road, get off the." And then the truck comes and just like it was a direct impact, and it hits his mom. Yeah. So I don't know. I think she's dead for sure. With this kind of impact. Unfortunate, but the mom was kind of an unlikable character as well, right? So you can't, we're not happy to see her die. I guess we kind of are, but it's still, a little sad as well. But yeah, so this truck just comes and hits her, which just like really out of the blue, like we didn't expect that at all. But for me, yeah, it was an interesting scene. Really surprised us. It was really sudden, and she died. It was a death. But I don't really understand the relevance of this scene or storyline. I don't really get why all of a sudden we get more of Sam and his mom this episode. To transfer the money over to Marty. Okay, I get that, but I don't get why she had to die in this situation. Why they got into a fight. I don't know why we had to see this on the show. The only thing I could think of is that if her death ends up screwing up the money transfer to Marty, and that somehow they investigate Eugenia's death, but then somehow they find that she transferred the money to Marty, and then Marty they start investigating him, and then they are able to get him. So that would be my prediction at this point, that that's what happens. Because otherwise, I don't really see why this is relevant. Yes, it's kind of a tragic death, but she wasn't really a likable character anyways. So there's really no, sympathy, given here, and nothing really else to gain from the scene. So yeah, that's my prediction. So then we kind of see kind of a sad scene, to be honest. Mason, pouring the gasoline down and ends up burning the church building, or what was there of it, just the wood pillars and stuff. So he confirms he's staying on the water, right? Because he burns this, it's done. Basically confirms he's staying on the water, and I kind of saw it as revenge against Marty a little bit. Him burning this down, kind of getting even with him, I guess, a little bit. I'm not sure what this building would do for Marty, to be honest, right? I don't think he can do the construction costs anymore, right? Because nothing's getting built. Or maybe he still was, I'm not sure. But if he was, I mean, obviously burning this down would stop all that. So if that's the case, Mason definitely got some revenge. And if not, maybe he just got equal with Marty himself in the end anyways. So then after that scene with Mason burning the church building, and in that scene we also see that Jacob Snell notices that the smoke coming from the forest there, and he kind of figures it out and knows Mason is going to go back on the water. So that's an interesting aspect too, that we get to see sort of Jacob's point of view of this whole thing. So then we see the Wendy and Marty back at the house. Wendy brings Charlotte home or whatever. Hugs her dad and whatever, and then she has to go for a swim in the water there, and Marty says only to the first buoy, I think, or something like that, and come back. So just a quick swim, and then Wendy and Marty have a serious conversation, about Wendy cheating on him, and how that affected their relationship and their lives. And Wendy tells Marty about the cheating video, about how she knows about it, and she says she found out that he watched it 27 times or something like that. And it's like, I'd like to know why he watched it 27 times. I mean, that's pretty weird, right? It's pretty messed up. And I think she asked him, but he never answered. So I'd like to hear that answer, to be honest. I'd like to see his point of view in this. But anyway, so then after that, they kind of talk about the kids a bit, and she says that Charlotte wants her old life back. Jonah isn't that happy, dragging dead animals back or whatever. So she tells him she contacted people back in Chicago, the coach, Jonah's teacher, I think, and a woman who could take care of them back in Chicago, and she wants them to go back there. But she says, she'll stay with Marty, and that, she won't go back with them at all. She's going to stay. And I just want to make the comparison to Breaking Bad here. And I know a lot of you have probably seen it, but if you haven't, I'm just going to throw this out there. I mean, it's been out for a few years, and I assume that almost everyone has seen it, so I'm just going to throw this out. It's a little spoilery, though, so you can skip, a few seconds ahead or whatever if you don't want to hear it. But anyways, it's kind of, when Skylar told Walter the same situation, how she got the kids out of the house or whatever, and she wanted them away from him, and that, she would stay with Walter, no matter what, for the looks, for the aesthetics of the relationship to look legit. And so I don't know, I felt like that was a pivotal moment in Breaking Bad. That was a huge scene and episode where that happened in. And obviously, yeah, this isn't as pivotal as a moment for Ozark, as it was for that show. But I just didn't really feel like, I didn't feel that. I still think that Wendy, has somewhat, somewhere in her, still loves Marty somewhat, right? And I think Marty still loves Wendy somewhat. So, I don't know, I didn't really feel the whole thing, that Wendy would want her kids out. I think she kind of, is just overwhelmed right now with Charlotte running away and stuff. So, I didn't really feel that same connection that I did with Breaking Bad, but hard to compare stuff to Breaking Bad, of course, but I just wanted to make that comparison. So then during this whole conversation, we see Charlotte then struggling in the water, and didn't really understand that, but I'll come back to that later on. So then Marty and Wendy, keep talking about, she talks about him slapping her ass or whatever. I think that happened last episode, and kind of like a interesting conversation there about, how, and that comes back to, him watching the video again. So that was kind of the centerpiece of this conversation. And then we see, I think we still hear them talking, but then we see Charlotte in the water, and she sinks down to the bottom, and she stops moving, and she's just at the bottom, sitting there, and we're kind of getting worried, what's happening? Is she just going under hold her breath or something? She's not moving. What's happening here? So we're kind of confused. And then the conversation kind of ends between Marty and Wendy. They kind of not resolve. They don't really resolve anything. But, conversation just comes to an end. Both of them kind of lose energy for it. And then, slowly we see Charlotte then, her toes kind of move a little bit, her hands kind of move a little bit. And then slowly, she's starting to, gain consciousness again, I guess. And she ends up pushing herself back up to the surface. And then she gets, up above the water, and she's kind of like laughing or crying or something like that, or maybe a little bit of both. And then, the credits roll and the episode ends. That's how it ends. So, yeah, I'm just really confused about that. I mean, she's supposed to be a really good swimmer. So, she's supposed to be on the swim team and all this, so I'm not sure how she even struggled in the water, how she got down there. Obviously, it was on purpose. Maybe she was trying to commit suicide or something like that. And then maybe at the very end, she debated it or whatever, and then she pushed herself back up. But I thought she was unconscious there. So she must have, maybe went unconscious, and then she woke back up, put herself up. That would be my, prediction there. But I don't know, in that scene, I wasn't worried about her, really. I didn't really understand what was going on. So I feel like they could have done a little bit better with that, made it more clear, maybe, if that's what she was doing, trying to commit suicide, that, maybe we see more build up to that, maybe, or I don't know, just to kind of see, make it out like that then, if that's the case, because I didn't really understand what was going on there until the very end. And so she gets up back to the surface, and presumably she's okay. And kind of this shows again the neglect from Marty and Wendy for their kids. I mean, they really haven't been looking after them at all. So this is just more of that neglect shown. And I do feel bad for Charlotte as well, right? But yeah, so that was an interesting scene. And I just want to say, it was a weird ending to the episode, right? I mean, it was weird, kind of suspenseful, but not really. You knew that she was gonna get up or something like that. Something was gonna happen, or that Marty would go in and save her, something like that. And yeah, so we're kind of just left with, what happened to Charlotte? Why'd she do that? And my guess is a suicide thing, but if it's not, I really have no idea what it was. And so I also want to ask this question, at this point, do we really care that much? Now, I know this seems a little bit, evil or whatever, right? But my opinion, I mean, like I said before, the stuff about the kids, it doesn't really appeal to me that much. I even like the Langmore stuff. Like I said, Roy Petty, Marty, Wendy, all that stuff way better than the kids' storylines right now. And the whole thing with Charlotte, trying to get back their old lives or something, go back to Chicago and all that stuff. After maybe she's been upset by the Zach guy last episode. So I don't know. At this point, I'd rather see more of the story than just stuff about these kids. This episode was centered a lot about them, the whole school thing, Charlotte running away, and then this at the end. So I don't know. Obviously, I do care that she lives and dies, but for this scene, it was predictable. You knew that she was going to get up. You knew that, or she was going to get rescued or something. So I didn't really, have that sense of, I was, jumping in my seat, waiting what would happen, right? I didn't have that feeling there. So I'm not sure if that's just me, or maybe the show, just hasn't built up the kids that well, or maybe they're just focusing on them too much. So that's my opinion. So let me get into my rating and my favorite character for this one. So my rating for this one will be a 3.3 out of 5. And yeah, this is a low rating, lowest one I've gave Ozark so far, but it's truthful. I mean, it just wasn't a good episode for my liking. I mean, I just really, like I said, the only thing I liked was the beginning scene and maybe some of the stuff with Wendy and Marty, that they kind of worked out some stuff finally, and that the whole thing with Sam came back, where they kind of used him, but I didn't get him with his mom's storyline. So yeah, it's just a lot of stuff in this episode that I didn't like, and the stuff with the kids, like I said, not a huge fan of. So 3.3. I'm kind of turned off right now. I'm gonna obviously watch the rest of it. I mean, this is nothing, that's gonna turn me off completely of the show. I'm just gonna stop watching it. No, I'm gonna keep watching, of course. But yeah, this just kind of throws a wrench into things. Just not my favorite episode, at all. So yeah, that's kind of my 2 cents. Favorite character for this one is FBI agent Roy Petty. And I thought I'd put him in here. He's in a little bit of this episode, not a lot. But I thought I'd just talk about him instead of having Marty again. And yeah, I mean he's played by Jason Butler Harner, and he's been in a few other things, and he's doing great. I mean, this is a really hard character to play, really dynamic. Now the way he's with Russ now and that whole storyline, so it's a hard character to play, and I thought the actor's doing really well at it. And I like that we get to see his real feelings here. That he actually, he does have some feeling for Russ, that it is real. So that's interesting as well. And yet he's trying to bust Marty. So he's gonna, be kind of faced with some choices here in the near future about what he's gonna do. So that's gonna be interesting. But anyways, guys, I think that just about wraps up my review for this one. Overall, not a good episode for me. My least favorite of the show so far. But yeah, I don't know. Let me know your guys' thoughts in the comments. Sorry. And yeah, maybe we can talk about it a little bit. And I'm sure people will disagree with me, but this is just my thoughts. So, anyways, thank you so much for watching this review. Thanks for the support. I've gotten in my recent videos. Really appreciate it. And yeah, so we'll see you next time for Ozark Season 1, Episode 8 review.